Okay, so it's maggot feeder time. Now, some of you may be asking, why the maggot feeder over, like, say, a method or a pellet feeder or even a little cage feeder? The beauty of the maggot feeder is there's not a single fish swimming that won't eat a maggot, and it's just a brilliant way, a nice accurate way of getting your bait into the swim. Now, what we've got here is a nice, soft 10-foot bomb rod. Medium sized reel, don't need a big reel, £6 main line, and you see the setup here, nice and easy, it couldn't be simpler. We've got a float stop above on the main line, then I've got one of these little snap link swivels that allow you to put your hook length on, and I've got a little float stop below it, and I've got sort of 6-7 inches of twizzled line there, and we've got our maggot feeder on. Hook length wise, a lot of people struggle when they're using a maggot feeder, they use too short hook lengths, you know, like you would on like a traditional feeder or even a method feeder. The beauty of this is because your hook length's so far away from your feeder, the fish can't see it. And obviously, the idea with the maggot feeder is to get them fish coming into the noise and they see that bait going in and they follow the bait down in that column of water. That's why I've got quite a long hook length on. What you've got to be wary of is if you're getting deep hooked fish or you're getting loads of smash maggots and not seeing the bite, that means that your hook length's too long, so you just shorten up. So, nice and quickly, all we've got on here is double red maggot. So what I'm doing with these maggots is putting one the normal way, through the fat end if you like, and then one through the thin end. Well, not through the hook length. It's an 18's Guru Kaiser nut, proper strong and angry, and when they stay in the fish, and we've got 0.14 hook length on. 0.14 for this time of year, you won't be able to get away with it on a pole or a waggler, it's just too heavy. But the beauty of the feeder, obviously when it's on the bottom, fish see it and they just nail it. They're not bothered about the line diameters. So from that, as you can see, it's just spinning around. It's like helicoptering, everything that, tangle proof. Now the beauty of this maggot feeder, just open the lid up, put a few maggots in. Now one of the most important tips I can give you with the maggot feeder is just before you go to cast it, what I'm going to do is just dink it in the water. Then I'm winding up, and I've got my marker, that cone opposite, and I'm just whacking it out there, hitting the clip, and it's just feathering down. Once it's hit the bottom, it's not like a method feeder or a pellet feeder where you can't move it. Tommy Pickering saying, don't move the feeder. You can on this. So winding down, whacking the line up, and then what I'm going to do is move that feeder along the bottom, probably about 18 inches to 2 foot, and what that does, it straightens your hook length out. So you can imagine your maggot feeder's here with that lovely bait around it, and your hook's over here somewhere. I just had a little dink then. So that when I move it, what's happening, I'm moving the maggots and my hook bait is coming into the maggots. And then all I'll be doing with that, depending on what fish I'm catching, if it's mainly silvers, I'll be giving it little twitches, little sort of like 4 or 6 inch twitches. That's usually when you get your bites. If it's mainly sort of carp you're after, just leave it a little bit longer. But the more and more bites I'm getting, the more frequent I'm going to cast. It's not like, again, like your traditional sort of like feeder fishing this time of year where you might leave it in like 20 minutes or something. No way. The longest I'm going to leave this in will be like 5 minutes. I'm going to bring it back, load it up again, and just keep casting and say it's all about getting that column of bait in the water. Give the maggot feeder a go. You know it makes sense. Okay, so a big edge for me this time of year is the use of dark ground baits. What you don't want to do, definitely this time of year when the water's clear, is use a light ground bait. So we've got the brand new Swim Stim Silverfish dark ground bait, and I'm just going to open the top of this. We don't need loads of it. I mean, I'm coming for sort of like 3 or 4 hour session, you know what I mean? I'm not going to spend ages on it. I've got some lake water in there, and I'm going to put some of my favourite F1 cool water liquid in. Don't want loads in, but I just want to just sweeten that mix up a little bit. So I'll probably put like 6 or 7 capfuls in there, that's all. Just give that a little tinkle, just get it all mixed up. I'm going to put sort of 1/4 to half a bag in. I'm not going to put loads in, as I say. It's so important that I touched on before that your ground bait is dark. Fish don't like swimming over. I've got a swan in my peg. Ooh. Sorry, I went a bit off there. Fish don't like a light ground bait, so it's got to be dark. So all we're going to do, just add little bits of water at a time. Now once you've done your initial mix, you need to make sure that you're leaving this to get all that air into it and all that. Now you could, if you wanted to, put, you know, a few micros in and this, that and the other, but personally I don't like to. I'm just going to put a few maggots in with this. I don't want to give them any other option other than the bait that I'm going to be putting on the hook. Now that, for me, is perfect. That's enough for a session. You might think, what are you on about there, Andy? I could put all that in one big ball, but trust me, all I'm going to be feeding is little tiny marble balls like that. Now what happens, obviously the beauty of this mix is you can have it rock hard so it stays like that until it hits the bottom and starts breaking up, or what I like to do is just give it a little light squeeze so it starts breaking up, probably from about halfway down or something like that. It's deep where we are, it's probably about 7.5, 8 foot deep. So as it gets to like 4 or 5 foot, it's going to start breaking up and it's going to go with an area sort of like this size, maybe sort of half the distance of that. And you can get your hookbait right over that, it's perfect. So, as I said, that mix is bang on. We need to leave it for sort of like 15, 20 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is put it through a riddle so it's lovely and smooth. Running, 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 running from myself. Oh, are we running? I thought you were asking me to sing running, running. Sorry, people. Good voice though, isn't it? Good voice. Right, so ground bait's had 15 to 20 minutes. Riddle on next. That goes over the bouquet. And then we're going to put the ground bait on top. Look at it, that's all we need. That's all you need for a proper session in the winter. You don't need loads. Anglers, I mean, I'm probably the world's worst at getting too giddy for feeding, but you literally don't need loads of this. It's just like one little sort of like grape-sized, marble-sized ball. That is all you need. That is absolutely perfect. So, incidentally, the ground bait was like really, really dry when I went back to it after 20 minutes. So I've just put a bit more water to it. So it's sort of like over wet. You wouldn't want it like this wet for your feeder. And then obviously by putting it through a riddle, you're getting all them lumps out of it. So it's absolutely perfect and that is a good mix. There's no lumps whatsoever in that. So all I'm going to be doing is, as I say, getting a little bit, one squeeze out of it, so that's going to be breaking up sort of like 4 or 5 foot down in water column. Your hookbait right over the top. Oh, them fish absolutely love it. It's just that darkness of the ground bait. It just attracts fish and there's nothing to spook them at all. Got to give it a go. You've just got to. So, as an angling coach, one of the biggest things, or mistakes, not things, how dare I say things, mistakes I see this time of year, is the line pull tip to float. Anglers are obsessed, like they still are in the summer, of fishing, you know, sort of 6, 8 inches of line pull tip to float. It's a massive no-no. Reason being is obviously when the water goes so clear, even though it's sort of 7 or 8, well, yeah, it's probably 7.5 foot today, I'd still use a long line pull tip to float. We've got a good, sort of getting on for 2 foot there. One of the main reasons is obviously the clarity of the water, I've just said. Another big reason is to do with wind. Obviously, it always tends to be windy this time of year, apart from when we go filming, Mark. Now, the trouble is, if you've only got a short line pull tip to float, that wind's going to be moving the pole over and it's going to be moving your rig out. You're not going to get a bite. Whereas if you've got a long bit of line pole tip to float, you see I've got back shots on as well. I've talked about this loads in on my videos. That pole can be doing what it wants over the top, but your float is always going to stay in the same spot. So, always use a longer line pull tip to float. And as I say, you can see there we've got over the top kit there, so we have got 7.5 foot. Now, hook bait wise, I always tend to go for like a little bit of a bigger hook bait than what I'm feeding. So we're feeding maggots. I always tend to go for double hook baits. I think the last couple of years, certainly since I'd have come to the fore, and obviously, you know, the bigger roach and skimmers, they just love that bigger bait because they just pick it out better. I've got a few different varieties of colour in here, but my all-time favourite is always a double red. So that's what I'm going to go on with. Incidentally, line-wise, we've got a 0.15 main line and a 0.10 hook length. I never go any other than a 0.10 hook length this time of year. Always 6 inches, and I've got a Guru 18's maggot hook on. Now, quite a big hook, but the beauty of them is the nice fine wire, so it doesn't really make a blind bit of difference. Bearing in mind I'm fishing slightly over depth, hook size is irrelevant as long as it's falling nice and slow. So you see we've got a lovely double maggot hook bait on there. Talk about the rig itself, but as I say, it's more important that you've got the hook, the line to float, the distance. We've got a bulk of number 8s, probably about 20 inches away from the hook, and then we've got 3 number 10s as droppers on, so it's going to get down there fairly quick, and then you've got the droppers coming in lovely and natural behind it. Elastic wise, we've got a single 6s on. I'll talk you through that in a sec, why it's important to use finer elastics, more to do with the bumping of the fish. But let's go and see if there's any fishes out there. Okay, so another big tip for you here. I'm giving all my secrets away today, aren't I? And that's elastic choice. Again, as an angling coach, I see this all too often. Anglers fishing miles too heavy elastics. Bearing in mind, the fish have pretty much shut down, you know. Even big wobbly carps, you can get in a lovely light elastic. But the main thing is, obviously this time of year, this is when silvers are on the go, because they don't really get a look in through the summer when the carp and the F1s are active. So this is prime time now to target the roach, the eye, the chub, the skimmers, them lovely silverfish. Now, what you can't do is fish too heavy elastic. So, for example, this is what I'll be using in the summer. I mean, it's only like a 5 to 8 elastic, but it's a hollow. Now, you don't really want to be using hollows during the winter. The reason being is it doesn't retract the same. It can sometimes dangle out. So that's when you want to come on to these solids. So this is a solid 6s. The beauty of it is once you strike into a fish, you've got all that elastic coming out, so you're not going to bump anything. The trouble with a heavier elastic, you're sort of getting that jolting action. So unless it's like a carp or an F1, it's just not nowhere near as smooth for like roach and skimmers and that. And the other thing as well, with a heavier elastic, this time of year when you've got a fish light in the first place to get bites, is when you're putting that instant pressure in when you've hooked them, they tend to like bolt off, and what that can do is just rip the hook out of them straight away. So that's why a nice soft elastic, certainly a solid elastic, which retracts a hell of a lot better than a hollow elastic, it's just that much smoother. Now, where anglers struggle in the fact that they're thinking, well, I'm fishing these carp waters or big F1 waters, if I do hook something big, it's just going to wobble off and I can't get it back. That is just not the case. Obviously, the invention of puller kits now is just revolutionised pole fishing. In you get it back to your top kit, you just keep pulling and away you go. You can get them big fish in a short space of time. I've had, you know, carp well into double figures out on single sort of 5, single 6s elastic. It's just not a problem at all. When the water level cools down, the fish just don't fight nowhere near as hard. But the main thing is that you're not bumping anything, especially these skimmers, especially them wobbly skimmers that can like do your head in at times. Fish are light elastic, I guarantee you'll catch more fish and you're going to be putting more in your net. I'll tell you what, we're flying through these tips today, aren't we? The last one I'm going to give to you beautiful people is the different use of coloured hook bait. So, as I briefly touched upon before in my last tip, double red maggot. I love using double red maggot this time of year. Now, when it's bright and clear, what else can work really well, if you look at these beauties in here, are white maggots. Obviously, that's why, you know, bread and comb works so well, because it's proper, bright, visible bait. White maggots is a must. I've also got some discos and some yellows in here. Let me get a disco out for you. Got that beauty there. You don't really see them. Disco party, disco ball. You don't really see many discos anymore. But let me tell you, that and a red, oh, tell you what, you catch so many fish on them. Everyone's got their own sort of thought process, but I like to mix it up a little bit this time of year. That's why I'll always have a few different varieties of maggots. And if we're on ledger bomb or on feeder or something, you could use all like these different coloured baits as well. You know, we've got some pop-ups there in like, look how visible them are. If I was a fish, I'd like to see it and absolutely nail it. You can use things like that, white ones. Obviously, we've got the washters, the yellow washters and the orange washters. Don't really like using the brown ones this time of year because I think the fish, obviously when the water clears up, the fish just like see that standout bait and nail it. So experiment, you know, I've got a whole bucket full of bait there. Experiment with the baits that you're putting on your hook. There's no sort of right and wrong with it. Summertime, yeah, you know, it doesn't really matter, the fish will see that bait and nail it. Whereas this time of year, just experiment with it. I've found personally, certainly fishing through the water, because I quite like fishing shallow, that white maggots are better than when you're fishing on the bottom, just giving them little tiny movements. Red maggots are better, but definitely try them discos as well. Because everyone loves to party! Yeah! Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome back. I've had an awesome session here. Probably fished for just over 3 hours, and are you ready for this little lot? Oh, look at all them. There's probably a good sort of 40, 45 pound in there. 6 or 7 decent carp. Got some skimmers, we've got some hide, we've got a big billy, look at him for the perch. We've got chub, let's get these beauties back. We've just caught all sorts, and that's the beauty of the styles of fishing that we've done. So, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Take it all on board, because obviously, trust me, the proof is in this. It does work. It's been horrible conditions today. It's been bright weather, freezing cold, but it just shows you. If you follow what I've done today, you too can have a net like this. Yeah, let's get them back.